Hi, so I wanted to say a quick word about the value price DVDs that I mentioned earlier at uh, that I found at Walgreens because I found the one Danny K one for $1, and I found the Must Love Dogs You've Got Mail dual pack for $10, and there's a lot to say on the subject. The first thing is as I pointed out, there are no real frills on the copy of Must Love Dogs, and I think that's simply because the makers of the DVD aren't able to sell the full screen, no frills version of Must Love Dogs. Uh, so they pair it with a really nice version of a really popular movie uh, that you know everybody loves and is occasionally on TV with commercials, but they pair it with a really nice copy of another movie so that then the buyer has some sense of satisfaction. Because nobody really wants to see the full screen version if almost everyone has a larger TV. I have a smaller TV, but I enjoy because I don't keep a large place. Uh, Having a smaller TV works for me, and I get pretty good picture quality and everything. But that being said, the value price DVDs are often poor copies of the movies if it's an older movie, like the copy uh, of Fantasy Mission Force was not a good copy, but they didn't have very many good copies to begin with. The value priced copy of the Inspector General wasn't very good. Still a good movie, but they had just let it degrade. Uh, and a lot of the value price movies that I saw were older movies, some serials, uh, and other things that would not sell otherwise. I mean, they had an entire collection of Bob Hope and Cary Grant comedies, but I looked on the back. One is actually so cheap to get the rights for that it's on Hulu, and uh, that's not saying anything bad about Hulu, but it is saying, okay, well, how good is this movie really? Um, Also, uh, none of the movies actually had Bob Hope and Cary Grant together, so I was like, what's going on? So I looked at it, and one of the movies didn't even have either of them in it. I was like, okay, I'm not buying this. It's $5, but I have better things to spend my money on. I would rather buy the Must Love Dogs and You've Got Mail, which are fairly good. Uh, Personally, if I'm going for Meg Ryan comedies, I prefer French Kiss, and if I'm going for Tom Hanks comedies, I honestly prefer Turner and Hooch. But uh, who doesn't love Turner and Hooch? Anyway, it feeds a lot of my thoughts on films in general because German filmmakers during the reign of the Nazis actually received more funding to produce films, and not just propaganda films where the Nazis were made to be glorious, but in some cases films that had a pro-Nazi message but were good storytelling as well. One example was a film called Paracelsus, which tells the story of a real life historical figure, not necessarily a true story, just a dramatization, where he is challenged by society because he uses an older method of healing people, and it works because he goes back to roots and herbs and you know doesn't do the thing of bloodletting and leeches and everything, uh, and doesn't believe in humors or any of that nonsense that they got into in the medieval period. Uh, he goes back to the scientific method that was established by the Greeks as opposed to going with just the hocus pocus medicine that the medieval doctors lived with and worked with every day. Uh, and someone who was recently on, I think it was either The Daily Show or The Colbert Report, was talking about how the films of the time were incredibly entertaining and incredibly rich and satisfying so that you could see them over and over again. And it was encouraged that people go and see these movies not just because you would see the newsreels with the propaganda, partially that, but also because you would be drawn into these stories. It would distract you from the problems of rationing, uh, and the fact that you had to present your papers every time you went around a street corner to some brute in a uniform. Uh, the fact is that it was an incredibly good way of distracting the people, uh, as well as keeping them from reading books and getting them really learning about life and everything. Because remember, the Nazis were the people who burned books that they found objectionable. Uh, so this really gets you thinking. If movies are this I almost want to say platonic distraction, then what are books? And you'll see me talk all up and down about films, and I really do love movies. But at the same time, how much are they good storytelling versus what the storytelling is that you get in a book? How much you have to imagine, how much you have to uh, how much you have to really work at it, uh, and take time over a course of time and exercise your brain and really learn how to read faster over time. I was able to read Harry Potter 7 in around 3 days simply because I was really enthused to read it. I had read all the other books. And meantime, I watched Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which, I read in probably about a month over classes and things. And I didn't get as much out of it as the book. And that's one of the reasons why I never owned a copy of the movies before, was because I thought the books were better. I was able to imagine all kinds of things. And mind you, I had the actors and some of the scenes from the movies in my head, but for scenes where it didn't have, uh, where it wasn't in the movie, I imagined, totally different things looking the way I wanted them to. So this should all just get you thinking, you know, maybe I should do a series called Book Recommendations. But I'm not that fast a reader. But I'll see what I can do in the future. I give you my word on that. Take care for now. Bye.